Hey everyone, welcome back to Sports Day Tribune. Today we're diving into some WNBA drama surrounding rookie sensation Caitlin Clark and a certain Hall of Famer who just can't seem to give her a break. Before we get into it, let's try to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, folks. Your support means we can keep bringing you the hottest sports takes, so smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Alright, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Sheryl Swoopes and her apparent vendetta against Caitlin Clark. Now, I'm not one to stir up drama, but when ESPN's Elle Duncan starts throwing around words like hate, you know things are getting spicy. So here's the deal. Swoops, a basketball legend in her own right, has been taking shots at Clark left and right since she entered the league. At first, we all thought, okay, maybe she's just being a tough critic. But now, it's starting to look less like constructive criticism and more like someone's got a serious case of sour grapes. Elle Duncan, bless her heart, finally said what we've all been thinking. On air, she straight up called out Swoops, saying, "This just doesn't feel right at all, and it is starting to feel a little bit like hate from Sheryl." Damn, Elle. Tell us how you really feel. But let's break this down, because Duncan's got a point. The Indiana Fever, Clark's team, were basically the league's punching bag last year. They won what? A handful of games? And now, with Clark on board, they're suddenly in playoff contention. Coincidence? I think not. Swoops, on her podcast, Queens of the Court. And can we talk about that name for a second? Anyway, she's out here saying stuff like, is Indiana in the playoffs right now without Caitlin? Sheryl, honey, have you watched a Fever game this season? Look, I get it. Sometimes it's hard to admit when the new kid on the block is shaking things up. But come on, the numbers don't lie. Clark is leading her team in pretty much every stat except rebounding. She's dropping dimes like it's going out of style, averaging 8.2 assists per game. That's not just good for a rookie, that's league-leading stuff. And let's not forget, this girl set the single-game assist record with 19 in one game. 19. I can barely get 19 people to agree on where to go for lunch, let alone dish out 19 assists in a professional basketball game. But wait, there's more. Clark also became the first rookie in WNBA history to record a triple-double. That's not just impressive, that's history-making stuff right there. Now, Swoops is trying to argue that the Fever have a solid roster anyway, so maybe Clark isn't the game-changer everyone thinks she is. But here's the thing. Stats don't lie. When Clark is on the court, the Fever's offensive rating is 103.6. When she's off, it drops to 93.9. I'm no math whiz, but that seems like a pretty significant difference to me. Gary Strewski, Duncan's co-host, summed it up pretty well when he said, "I don't understand what angle you can look at with this argument she's making and think, you know what, there's some validity there." Preach, Gary. Preach. It's worth noting that before the WNBA's pause, the Fever were sitting pretty in the 7th seed with an 11-15 record. That might not sound great, but considering where they were last year, it's a massive improvement. And let's not forget, they're only 2 wins away from matching their total wins from last season. If that's not progress, I don't know what is. Now, I'm not here to bash Sheryl Swoopes. She's a legend of the game, no doubt about it, but sometimes, even legends need to take a step back and give credit where credit is due. And right now, all signs point to Caitlin Clark being the real deal. Let's talk about Clark's impact for a second. This girl is averaging 17.1 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 8.2 assists per game. That's not just good, that's future of the league good. She's not just living up to the hype, she's exceeding it. And it's not just about the stats. Clark has brought a new energy to the Fever. She's got that intangible quality that makes everyone around her play better. You can see it in the way her teammates move on the court, the way they're always ready for her pinpoint passes. But here's the thing that really gets me. Clark is doing all of this as a rookie. A rookie. Can you imagine what she's going to be like with a few years of pro experience under her belt? It's scary to think about. Now, I'm not saying Clark is perfect. No player is, especially not in their rookie season. But the impact she's had on the Fever is undeniable. And that's what makes Swoop's comments so baffling. It's one thing to be critical, It's another to consistently downplay someone's achievements without any real basis. And that's exactly what Swoops seems to be doing. You know, it reminds me of something we see all too often in sports. When a new star comes along and starts shaking things up, there's always someone from the old guard who can't quite handle it. It's like they feel threatened, like the new kid's success somehow diminishes their own legacy. But here's the thing. Basketball isn't a zero-sum game. Clark's success doesn't take anything away from what Swoops accomplished in her career. If anything, it builds on it. Each generation of players stands on the shoulders of those who came before them. And let's be real, the WNBA needs stars like Caitlin Clark. The league is growing, but it still needs those marquee names to draw in casual fans and keep them coming back. Clark has that star power. She's got that mix of skill, charisma, and marketability that could help take the WNBA to new heights. So instead of trying to downplay her impact, shouldn't we be celebrating it? Shouldn't we be excited about what Clark and players like her could mean for the future of women's basketball? I mean, think about it. The more attention Clark brings to the league, the more little girls will see her play and think, hey, I could do that too. That's how you grow the sport. That's how you ensure that the next generation of players is even better than this one. And it's not just about Clark. Look at players like Aja Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu. These are all players who are pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible in women's basketball. They're changing the game, both on and off the court. But for some reason, Clark seems to be catching the brunt of this criticism. Maybe it's because of all the hype surrounding her coming out of college. Maybe it's because she's not afraid to be confident in her abilities. Or maybe, just maybe, it's because she's living up to the hype and then some. Whatever the reason, it's a shame to see a legend like Swoops taking this stance. Because at the end of the day, we should all be rooting for the success of the league as a whole. And right now, Caitlin Clark is a big part of that success. You know, it's interesting to think about how this will all look a few years down the line. Will we look back on these comments from Swoops and shake our heads? Will Clark have proven herself so thoroughly that even her harshest critics have to admit they were wrong? Only time will tell, of course. But based on what we've seen so far, I wouldn't bet against Caitlin Clark. This girl is special, folks. And whether Sheryl Swoopes wants to admit it or not, she's changing the game. So here's my take. Let's give credit where credit is due. Let's celebrate the fact that we're witnessing the rise of a potentially generational talent. And let's hope that as the season progresses, the focus can shift back to what's happening on the court, rather than the drama off it. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. The game, the competition, the thrill of watching these incredible athletes push themselves to the limit. And right now, Caitlin Clark is giving us plenty to be thrilled about. So, Sheryl, if you're listening, and let's face it, you probably aren't, maybe it's time to take a step back, take a deep breath, and maybe, just maybe, give Caitlin Clark the props she deserves. Because love her or hate her, there's no denying that she's making the WNBA a whole lot more exciting. And isn't that what we all want? A league that's competitive, exciting, and full of star power? If that's the case, then Caitlin Clark isn't the problem. She's part of the solution. So there you have it, folks. The Caitlin Clark saga continues, with no signs of slowing down anytime soon. Will Sheryl Swoopes come around? Will Clark continue to silence her critics with her play on the court? And most importantly, will the Indiana Fever make the playoffs? These are the questions that'll keep us watching as the WNBA season unfolds. And honestly, I can't wait to see what happens next. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, it's that Caitlin Clark is just getting started. And whether you love her or hate her, you can't deny that she's making the WNBA a whole lot more interesting. That's all for today, folks. This is Noah signing off for Sports Day Tribune. Remember, keep your head in the game and your eyes on the prize. And most importantly, keep watching the WNBA. Because if this season is any indication, we're in for one hell of a ride. Peace out, sports fans.